I mean, maybe we do go to $1 million on this run. I certainly, 100,000 feels like a no-brainer. I've never been as bullish as I am on a financial asset as this financial asset. The asymmetry is just crazy. I mean, wait till we take out 68 or 69. I mean, the FOMO is going to be silly. I was shocked by how quickly Silicon Valley Bank failed. I mean, they sold off some bonds very quickly. A few people realized that, their balance sheet was a mess, and they had negative equity. A couple of venture guys figured it out, called a few other venture guys. They spread the word, and suddenly, within 3 days, they were bankrupt. Can you imagine the same kind of thing going on when everyone comes to the same conclusion about the U.S. Treasury? The demand here is just going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely insane.
Today we have Larry Lepard giving us an update on Bitcoin, the crypto market, and the collapse of the fiat money system as we know it. Lepard believes BlackRock is playing a much bigger role in 2024 than any other institutional investor. And while he maintains a bullish price prediction for Bitcoin, he discusses why this is unlike anything we've seen in history. Bitcoin is sitting just below $51,000, up over 119% just in the past year. Lepard predicts Bitcoin will hit $100,000 this year, while the dollar continues to fall. This is where he says Bitcoin will actually show itself to be a true form of money without influence from inflation or government's continuous printing. But despite these challenges, Lepard believes this actually demonstrates Bitcoin's lasting presence and solidifies its position as the currency of the future. Let's get right into the interview with Larry Lepard as he gives his Bitcoin price prediction for 2024 and why we'll see a six-figure price very soon.
If I read the prospectuses, a couple of them anyway, not all 9, on these particular ETFs, and what I think happened is that they're much tighter, and they, so I think that Fidelity, particularly who I trust, they're going to be audited, and so they're going to have to show the coins they bought. They're going to have to show those addresses, and so it's going to be harder, for people to play games here. But to think that they're not going to play games, I think that's naive. I think that, you look at a group like BlackRock, you look at Wall Street and how they operate. There's always the potential, if there is a way to rehypothecate or to create paper claims, they will do it. And, having said that, at the sovereign level, I think in the gold market, one of the things that happened is that there was a lot of paper being created through the Caymans. And I think it was the BIS and the central banks were actually doing it at critical points to try and hold the gold price down, because they knew that the gold price was the canary for monetary debasement. And so, but those sovereigns could take unlimited losses, right? So, those unlimited losses, it didn't matter. They could print the difference. But gold never went up 5x in 18 months the way Bitcoin has. And so this is going to be a much harder thing to mess with. But I think to assume that they cannot or will not try to mess with it is naive. I think that Wall Street operates, on a criminal basis, and so there's always the possibility that they will try to mess with it. And whether they'll be successful or not is unclear. And here's the other thing that's very interesting to me. I mean, I saw a great tweet the other day that said something along the lines of, the ETFs, the 9 ETFs now own 1% of, the total available Bitcoin outstanding, and it was 210,000, right? And gosh, I mean, in that buying of 1%, what do we go before the ETF was announced? Where were we? 38, 40-ish? I mean, they bought 1%, and it shoved it up, 10 grand. I mean, that's impressive, right? So what happens? And they're just going to keep coming. They're just going to keep coming. So, and I mean, the sovereign wealth guys are going to buy it. I went to Dubai about a week or two ago for this thing called Satoshi's Roundtable, which was interesting, although there were a lot of coiners there. But there are also a lot of wealthy Arab, oil-related guys there. And, wait until these guys really figure out that this is better than gold. I mean, some of them have. But, I mean, there's just so many big pools of money. And once they, there's just not enough of this stuff to go around. And so I'm beginning to think Samson's, maybe he's onto something here. I mean, maybe we do go to $1 million on this run. I certainly, 100,000 feels like a no-brainer. And I don't know. I mean, is it 2, 3, 4? I mean, who knows? But all I know is I'm really glad I got the coins I've got, and I'm not selling any of them, not right here, right now, and I'm not sure I'll ever sell any of them, but I need a significantly higher price. I mean, significantly higher to pry a few out of my hands. So it's pretty amazing to me what's going on.
The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. Comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs. He also suggests that BlackRock, under the guidance of Larry Fink, will lead the charge in obtaining regulatory approval for a Bitcoin ETF. This move, he contends, will underscore Bitcoin's enduring relevance as an asset and its potential as a hedge against currency devaluation. Despite the obvious ties between certain major financial players and certain senators and regulators, the spot Bitcoin ETFs are positioned to benefit not just Bitcoin, but other cryptocurrencies as well. Lepard believes that at least 1% of financial advisors' portfolios will flow into Bitcoin, causing a massive surge in price this year. Fidelity is one company taking full advantage of this, investing 1% in spot Bitcoin ETFs, which will be huge for Bitcoin and the crypto market in 2024, as we watch more and more institutional investors come into the space in the weeks ahead.
I mean, I'll give you my view on this whole, paper Bitcoin argument. Okay. I mean, and I see extremists on one side. I see people who say, look, we can see it all on chain and there's absolutely no way there can ever be paper Bitcoin. Those people are wrong. There are a lot of futures. There will be more futures and derivative contracts, et cetera. And, any contract that impacts the market price, or that relates to buying and selling can impact the market price. So it's not as simple as there won't ever be paper manipulation. But having said that, it's a lot harder to manipulate this stuff than it is gold. And that's because, one, the paper markets and gold are a lot bigger and a lot deeper. Two, the GLD ETF, when it came out, they were allowed to do a lot of funny things like have counterparties and buy futures and sell futures. And, GLD, for all you know, has bought gold from the future Lehman Brothers that claims they have the gold, but they don't have it. So GLD became a mechanism for creating paper gold, in my opinion. How many people have you orange pilled and they started off with one or two, and then the more they learned about it, they just kept adding? I mean, the demand here is just going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely insane. And so I've never been as bullish as I am on a financial asset as this financial asset. The asymmetry is just crazy. I mean, wait till we take out 68 or 69. I mean, the FOMO is going to be silly. And the thing I think people don't understand, it and I know it, is just how little of this stuff is for sale. Everyone says, oh, it's $1 trillion market cap. Well, no, not all of it's for sale. I mean, I saw a stat the other day, it was like 79% of it hadn't moved within 6 months. I think that's correct. I mean, good Lord. So there's really a much smaller available supply. As more and more people come to it, I mean, and the other thing that you see in asset management is that people basically chase performance. And so this thing, I mean, it was up 150% last year. And once you see things, outperforming everything else, you increase your allocation. Sharp ratio is higher than nearly anything else. I think it depends on what time frame you use, but I think in general, it has one of the highest Sharpe ratios out there. And so, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be irresponsible not to have some. And I think that's the other thing that's going to happen. I mean, you're going to see people talking about it. People are going to tell their friends how well they did in it. And you're going to get guys calling their financial advisor, their RIA, and saying, hey, do we own any of this? No. Well, my friend owns it. It's doing really well. Why not? And then the RIA is going to say, oh, okay, well, I don't want to say no anymore. All right, I'll put 2% in there, or I'll put 5% in there. And then when the 2 or the 5% doubles, it becomes a bigger percentage. And people are going to start saying, well, how come we were so light? How come we didn't have more? I mean, you know how this thing goes, right? I mean, and eventually it's Gresham's law, right? I mean, you and I, as we know, we've talked about it. We dream about the concept that eventually, it's going to be, this is the only thing to own. And at that point, you've got hyper Bitcoinization, and that is coming. But the issue is, just the time scale, and that's hard to figure out. But it's coming. I kind of tend to think it's coming before 2030, 2035. I mean, it could happen really quickly. I mean, one of the things I think is very interesting, Nico, that we haven't really talked about is how quickly things happen in this environment and how social media has changed the rules of the game. And let me just cite an example that I think is particularly relevant. Silicon Valley Bank was fine until it wasn't. I mean, we had a virtual internet-based bank run. They had $45 billion worth of deposits leave in one day, based on a panic started by some big Silicon Valley venture capitalists. And so, I'm not suggesting anything like that is coming to Bitcoin overnight. But what I am suggesting is that, in the world that we live in with social media and how news changes quickly, I mean, if Bitcoin went through 100,000 on its way to, to much higher numbers, I mean, it could happen faster than we think. I was shocked by how quickly Silicon Valley Bank failed. I mean, they sold off some bonds very quickly. A few people realized that, their balance sheet was a mess, that they had negative equity. A couple of venture guys figured it out, called a few other venture guys. They spread the word, and suddenly, within 3 days, they were bankrupt. All the deposits had fled. Can you imagine the same kind of thing going on when everyone comes to the same conclusion about the U.S. Treasury? Which ultimately, as Jerome Powell just told us, they will come to that conclusion unless we solve the problem at some point.
Larry Lepard may have a bold price prediction of $100,000 and then on to $1 million, but he's not the only one that shares this sentiment. Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, and Cathie Wood all predict Bitcoin's price going from 6 figures next year and then on to hit 7 figures within the next 5 years. The crypto market is poised for a meteoric surge in prices. He illustrates Bitcoin's current undervaluation, drawing in investors and enticing speculators eager to ride the waves of 2023's price fluctuations in pursuit of profits. Lepard's outlook is fueled by the impending wave of mass adoption, which he believes presents an unparalleled opportunity to get in on the action. He sees the race toward a 6-figure price target set to unfold in just under a year. What's more, he highlights the intriguing historical pattern of Bitcoin's value surging 10x with each halving event, hinting that 2024 could catapult Bitcoin to an unbelievable $100,000. We'll be keeping an eye on Bitcoin's price in the coming months. What do you think about Larry Lepard's price prediction for Bitcoin? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.